The movie kicks off 3 decades ago with a kid named Jacko Ollie hanging out at his family's Christmas party. Jacko, being a little mischief maker, takes his cousins upstairs to spill the beans about who really bought their gifts. Hint, it wasn't Santa Claus. As a reward for ruining the magic, his cousins give up their candy to him. Not long after, Uncle Rick storms in, scolds Jacko for wrecking everyone's Christmas spirit, and insists that Santa is, in fact, the real deal and brings presents for everyone. But Jacko's not buying it. To him, Santa's just a big con for kids. Uncle Rick, however, is determined to change Jacko's mind. He promises that by the next morning, Santa will come through. Fast forward to the present, and Jack is now a seasoned tracker. His skills are razor sharp. He sneaks through tight mall security, waits for the perfect moment, and causes a scene by setting a Christmas tree on fire. In the chaos, he slips inside, heads straight to the computer cables, and plants a flash drive. Mission accomplished. On his way out, he steals candy from a baby who dares to stare at him. Yep, Jack's still a bit of a jerk. Meanwhile, at the same mall, we meet Santa, also known as the Red One, doing his annual Christmas appearance. He's got his loyal, no-nonsense bodyguard Callum, who also happens to be an elf from the North Pole. Callum's not messing around and quickly shoos away an annoying influencer who tries to hijack Santa's photo session for some online clout. Most people think this Santa is just a guy in costume, but Callum is dead serious about protecting him. Once their job at the mall is done, Callum and Santa head home. And by home, I mean the North Pole, a magical place that they reach in a blink thanks to some serious teleportation magic. Back at his apartment, Jack is chilling, watching a boxing match, and munching on snacks when his phone buzzes. It's his mysterious client giving him a new job. They hand over half the payment now and promise the rest once he completes the assignment. Jack's good at what he does, and he knows it. Meanwhile, Callum and Santa arrive at the North Pole, hidden behind a magic force field. Mrs. Claus greets them with a smile before Santa hits the floor for his daily workout. 500 push-ups in 5 minutes flat. Not bad for an old guy. Afterward, Callum and Santa have a heart-to-heart. Callum drops a bombshell. He's thinking about retiring. He's tired of the job and feels like people don't respect the holidays anymore. The world's just getting too naughty. Santa tries to talk him out of it, reminding him that their work is about bringing people together. But Callum's not so sure. Their chat gets cut short when things start going haywire. The lights flicker in Santa's tower. Callum immediately knows something's up. He tries to radio the security team, but no one answers. When he rushes to check on Santa, he's already gone. Callum sounds the alarm and spots a group of mercenaries making their getaway. He jumps on a snowmobile and chases them through the icy North Pole, but they manage to escape with Santa in tow. Frustrated, Callum heads to the security HQ to dig up clues. He finds out the only person who could have pulled off this kind of tracking job is someone called the Wolf. The Wolf is a top-tier mercenary and bounty hunter who works for whoever pays the most. He's a ghost on the dark web. Even the FBI can't get him. At the same time, Jack's ex-wife, Olivia, calls and asks him to pick up their son. Jack swings by the school and scoops up his kid. On the way home, he gives his son some classic bad dad advice. Never trust anyone. He drops his kid off and heads back to his apartment, where he notices he's being followed. A fight breaks out, and it turns out his attackers are North Pole mercenaries. Jack barely manages to escape through a window and into another building, but he's not free for long. He's taken down by a woman named Zoe and kidnapped. Jack wakes up in a remote location somewhere in the North Pole. Callum and a giant polar bear bodyguard named Garcia confront him. They know he's the one who tracked Santa, but Jack insists he didn't know who he was tracking. He was just doing the job for the money. Zoe fills him in. Santa Claus has been kidnapped. Jack's skeptical. He doesn't believe in Santa or any mythical creatures, but Zoe assures him they're real. They slap a tracker on him just in case he tries to run, and the unlikely team bands together to save Christmas. Meanwhile, Santa wakes up in a dark cell. His kidnapper? A young woman named G. She's got plans to drain Santa's magic to power up her weapon, a mystical snow globe called the Glassic. Things are looking grim for the big guy. Back to Jack and Callum. To track Santa, they enter a portal hidden inside a toy store. They magically enlarge a toy car to use as their ride. On the way, Jack asks if Callum's just Santa's bodyguard. Callum says it's a bit more than that. They arrive in Aruba, where they're hunting down a guy named Ted, the middleman who set up the deal between Jack and the villains. They try to talk things out with Ted, but of course, things turn violent. Callum shrinks and grows himself like some action hero, taking out Ted's goons one by one. When the dust settles, Ted spills the beans. The mastermind behind the kidnapping is G, a Christmas witch. Ted writes her name in the sand, but Jack, being Jack, says it out loud. Big mistake. G hears it immediately. The sky darkens, the air gets cold, and G uses Ted to send a chilling message to Callum. She's coming for everyone on Santa's naughty list. Now the clock is ticking. Callum told her straight up that they really need Santa back, but she wasn't having it and insisted on punishing all the naughty folks. Right after, an ice cream truck suddenly popped out of the ocean, and out came 3 giant, freaky-looking monsters known as the Snowmen. These things weren't messing around and immediately started chasing Jack and Callum. They tried to fight back, but every time they destroyed one, it just kept regenerating itself. Finally, Callum figured out the trick when he knocked off one of the snowmen's carrot noses, which made it collapse for good. Jack caught on quick and managed to blow another one up with an explosion. Just as the 3rd snowman was about to freeze Jack in a pool of ice, Callum swooped in and took care of it by removing its nose too. Meanwhile, back with G, she decided to test her magic snow globe, the gloss of fig, on one of her workers named Abel. The poor guy touched it and instantly got trapped inside. But instead of feeling victorious, G was frustrated when the globe didn't return to her hand. Now she had to change her plans. Things got worse for Ted, who got frozen solid, which meant no more intel from him. At this point, Zoe showed up to meet with Callum and Jack. Callum came up with a theory that Santa's estranged brother might be helping G. He also mentioned that their ally, Maura, didn't have the authority to go to this brother's hideout, so he and Jack would have to sneak in alone. Right before they left, Jack got a call from Olivia, who chewed him out for missing their son Dylan's concert. Jack admitted to Callum that he'd never really been a great dad. They finally made it to the hideout, which turned out to belong to none other than Krampus, Santa's brother and all-around grump. They tried to be stealthy, but Jack messed it up when he couldn't resist grabbing a piece of gold. It set off alarms, and Krampus and his minions quickly captured them. The duo ended up in front of Krampus, who was busy playing a bizarre game called Cramp Clap. Callum tried to explain the urgent situation, but Krampus wasn't interested. He felt accused and planned to keep Callum locked up. Jack had an idea. He challenged Krampus to a round of Cruzap, a brutal game that involved slapping each other as hard as possible. Callum kept trying to reason with Krampus, but Krampus didn't care. The game kicked off, and Krampus smacked Callum so hard he went flying. But then Jack activated a special arm brace on Callum, which gave him enough power to slap Krampus to the floor. This gave them the chance to escape. As they ran to their vehicle, they found a mysterious package from G addressed to Jack. He refused to open it. Then Jack got a video call from Dylan, who was upset that his dad hadn't shown up for his concert. Dylan warned Jack to stop sending gifts, but then Jack realized the package was from G. Before he could stop it, Dylan opened the package and touched the gift inside. The next second, Dylan was teleported to G's lair. With no other option, Jack grabbed a globe and followed after his son. He landed in G's lair and found Dylan. G was thrilled because now her gloss of figs were finally working. Her evil plan? To wipe out all the naughty people and purify the world. After G left, Jack apologized to Dylan for being a terrible dad. Dylan forgave him, and Jack's redemption somehow gave them the strength to break out of the globes they were trapped in. Thanks to the tracker Zoe had secretly planted on Jack, she and Callum figured out that Jack and Dylan were still at the North Pole. That meant G never took Santa away. Instead, her shape-shifting goons had infiltrated the North Pole and were pretending to be Mrs. Claus and the guards. Callum and Zoe found Jack and Dylan, and they all realized G planned to use Santa to power his sleigh so she could distribute the gloss of figs worldwide and trap everyone she thought was naughty. They freed Mrs. Claus, Garcia, and the others before setting off to stop G. The showdown was intense. G initially had the upper hand, but Jack managed to disconnect the reindeer from the sleigh, causing it to plummet and sending G tumbling. Callum rushed to wake up Santa, but G wasn't done yet. She returned in her terrifying true form, a massive, creepy monster with tentacles. Just when things looked bleak, Krampus showed up in his own sleigh, ready to throw down. He and G clashed in an epic fight, but G tossed him around like a ragdoll. Fortunately, Santa woke up just in time. He called on his reindeer, who rammed into G, knocking her into a pile of her own globes. One of the globes trapped her inside, finally putting an end to her reign of terror. With G defeated, Zoe took her into custody. Everyone scrambled to get Santa back on track for his Christmas deliveries. Callum, Jack, and Dylan joined Santa as he flew around the world, spreading joy and dropping off presents to kids. As they traveled, Callum noticed Jack and Dylan bonding, and he even caught a glimpse of Jack's inner child. That heartwarming moment was enough to convince Callum to stay on the job. He told Santa he wasn't ready to retire after all. Santa smiled and flew Callum, Jack, and Dylan back home. That's the story for now. Thanks for watching, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more recaps. Until next time, have a great day.